Welcome to Southpod, the first and foremost podcast created to tell the story of tech innovation and scalable entrepreneurship in the American South. Southpod is hosted by Join Yarian and Stanfield Gray and produced by Dig South Media. Dig South Media is the South's tech hub, the place where leading global brands connect with the region's most scalable startups. This episode was recorded live at the 2019 Dig South Tech Summit in Charleston, South Carolina. Visit digsouth.com for details and connect with us on social media at Dig South.
Welcome to Southpod. I'm your host, Join Yarian, and we are excited to be recording today from the conference itself. We're in the bowels of the Gilliard Auditorium Entertainment Complex. If you hear some noise, it's just the sound of capitalism around us, just people,
enthusiastic capitalists,
people doing things. And I am excited to be joined today by Shannon and Bryan Miles, who I think that's pure coincidence, right?
It is.
We just met today, and we have the same last name.
We'll unpack the familial nature of your management model in a second. But have a terrific business called BELAY, and they're here making connections and part of the Dig South movement. And before we go any further, let's do this. Let's get that succinct explanation of BELAY, of the business. Then we're going to get into a bunch of other stuff and come back to it in a minute. But what's the boilerplate on the company?
So it can be really hard for growing organizations to find great help. So we provide professional assistants, bookkeepers, and website specialists to help leaders get back to doing what they love.
Yeah, that was
that
tight.
Succinct enough?
No, that was surprisingly succinct.
Yes.
I wasn't quite ready for you to be done talking. That was amazing.
We really work on our elevator pitch.
Yeah. And so that perfectly makes sense. And you guys, you've got more than, it's not like you got 30, 40 people you're connecting with. Give me a sense of the size of the organization.
Well, today we're over 800 people all over the United States that work for BELAY. So just a handful of really great folks.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the explanation, the description you gave, so clearly explains how you make life easier for managers and leaders. And I'm looking at two people that have 800 people they're managing, and I think your lives might be kind of complicated. Is that fair, or is this somehow, can you self-apply the same service? How does it work?
We never set out to do this, but those three core services that we offer are the first three things we ever outsourced in our business.
Yeah, we practice
to start
what we
BELAY.
preach.
So we get it. We just wanted to identify a need in the market and meet it and do it better than what we perceive to be out there.
Well, what were you doing when that, and it could have been a virtual service model, but what had you looking at each other going, God, I wish we had somebody else to update the website or manage some other stuff?
I think for us, we quickly realized it was not our skill set. We suck at doing bookkeeping, and we're not, it's just not the best use of our time. Yeah. So we quickly realized that we were going to scale our business. We had to get out of the way of what we called lower payoff activities so we could be about the things that are more important to us to grow and scale the business. And that's what a lot of leaders are faced with, is they still get stuck doing stuff that they really have no business doing if they really fully understood their per hour cost that they get charged to do.
Yeah, and were you doing something completely different and looked at each other and said, God, we could really use some fractional, affordable help?
Yeah.
Or was it always this and you just scaled it up?
No.
So in 2010, he and I were both working for different corporations. My last position with the big company I was with was in project management. He was in construction sales side of things. So when we both decided it was time to start BELAY together, we quit those jobs to go all in on this. And so it was really, when you're starting a business, you have to wear all the hats. They all have to get done. But we really quickly realized maybe all the stuff had to get done, but we didn't have to be the ones to do all the things. And so that's when we had our virtual assistant come in and do some scheduling and sales contracts and things like that, and somebody else do the bookkeeping because I really sucked at it. And, Bryan actually did the initial website, but then it became too much to maintain. So I think the key for business owners getting started is recognizing where your time is best spent, what impact you're going to make on the business if you were freed up to do what you're best at. And so it was really just a natural progression for us to get there after we decided to start the company.
Yeah, we bootstrapped our business. We didn't take outside money. We literally, she wasn't kidding, we gave notice on the same day to our employers in 2010, October 1st.
Romantic.
Within an hour of each other.
Quit on the same day.
And we took our 401k
and it was my birthday
money,
too, to make it even more
birthday.
sweet.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And we took our 401k money, which was $160,000, and we used that as our startup capital. So we were all in on this idea, and then we believed in bootstrapping it. So we were forced to say, okay, well, how do we creatively scale this stuff?
Well, hang on here. So you're saying that like it's advice, like a listener should just liquidate their 401k.
No, I don't think that's wise. But
okay, well, unpack that for us for a minute here, because there's also, you're talking about commitment. You're talking about really having a will and a drive to make it work. And you did something that is frankly inadvisable, right? That's
for most people.
I wouldn't recommend it. Talk to me about that mindset and what put you in that place to take that kind of a risk.
Yeah.
I'll start.
Okay.
In early 2010, I had a job that had me up in the air on 6 to 8 flights a week, and we had babies in our house, 2 and 5 years old, and I was just never home, and it sucked. I didn't want that anymore for us. And I was making our company money, and I was creating wealth for another organization, and I was like, something's got to change here. And then I read a book about Sam Walton, and I realized that his actual first branded Walmart was in his early 40s. And at the time, I was 35, and I'm like, we've got to do something. And then I started the dialogue with Shannon about that.
It wasn't too late.
And then, for Shannon working at a very large Fortune 10 company, her next move was going to be more a parallel move, not upward. Yeah. And she was kind of finding herself in a unique spot there after 10 years in terms of what she was going to do next with her career.
And we had, this 401k that we had worked to create, and we felt like we were better off loaning the money to ourselves than taking it from somebody else and then being beholden to them. And I mean, honestly, my fallback was, okay, so if we lose it all, if we never turn a profit and this business is bust, at least we tried and we're young enough to recover. So it worked for us. Fortunately, we were able to turn a profit, stop losing money, I should say, 14 months in. But I think it was we had just enough of a safety net to know that we would regret it if we didn't try, at least. It actually felt like it was riskier to stay where we were than to leave and start BELAY.
Well, you already knew that sucked.
Yeah,
right. What you had already sucked.
Yeah,
so
she's absolutely. We had friends who were like, "What are you doing? This is the Great Recession. Unemployment's 9.6%."
Yeah,
we're like, it feels risky to stick, and Shannon's right. I mean, there was just something about the momentum of that day and that era for us that we got to figure this out. Let's go do this thing.
Now, there's a different version of this, and by the way, that has been said on this podcast before by other people, where one partner stays in their boring job and the other one takes the big risk, and that's how you've hedged, and you keep your health benefits and blah, 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 and that's not what you did.
No.
Talk me through that decision. Was it just like that no one wanted to be the one left behind in the job that sucked? I mean...
That is a very real struggle that we faced early on, because it was so exciting to start the business, but it was equally terrifying. And for me, I held the benefits, and I actually had a great boss at the time. The company had gotten a little toxic, but I had an incredible leader, and gave my notice in October, intended to wrap up in November. Mid-month, she came to me and said, "Can you just stay through the fiscal year," which was March. And we didn't really have clients at the time. And, I could make a case that, that's probably the wise thing to do. Let's not throw all our eggs in this basket right now. Let me keep the benefits a little longer. And, I thought about it for a while, and I had a conversation with Bryan, and he said, honey, we have something here, and I need you more to do this than that company needs you. As much as you think you can, and it wasn't personally or mean, but as much as we think we contribute to an organization, we are all replaceable. So the need that was felt greatest was the need for me to be 100% in BELAY with Bryan at the time. And so I was like, you know what, you're right. And guess what? They replaced me. Shocker, right? They were fine without me.
Well, it's interesting. We're obviously during the Dig South conference, we record a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this, you're hearing it whenever. I don't know exactly when this is going to come out. But over the day, talking to different people, the theme that's been coming up are these examples of commitment. I'm going to set aside judgment on liquidating one's 401k. It is whatever it is to you. What it signals to me is just commitment, right? And you're doing it inside of or adjacent to this other commitment, because like you guys are literally married, if I'm not mistaken.
We are very
and more than common law.
You have the paperwork. Okay, great.
We even renewed our vows, like to double down on the idea that we're married.
Okay, intense. And so, that's really where I see that is this commitment to make things different. Adjacent to this other commitment to something that wouldn't change, which is you guys being together. So the one is permanent, and the other's like, let's just set it all on fire and see what we get. How long was there an active conversation or intention to go into business together, or who was the first one to actually say it out loud? What was that like?
It was definitely me to say, hey, I want to do something, and I implied to her, I've got to do something different. And then it took her, a month or two.
Yeah, probably.
And then she's like, we should probably do this together. Like, whatever this thing is, let's start exploring that. And then we did due diligence together, and we went out and talked to some friends of ours who are widely successful in business and asked them questions. We didn't just jump in a flippant fashion. We really did our due diligence. And that I think gave us the foundation towards the drive and the commitment that we realized we were going to need to do. And fortunately, there's a really great book called The Dip, Seth Godin book. For me, was very helpful in saying, could we be number one or number two on the other side of this hard effort, this huge commitment that we're about to, of our life savings, are putting our, starting to work together in a work capacity in addition to being married. So there was a lot of things that we had to unpack during that season of time to make sure that we were good.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it connects to another concept that's very relevant in the nature of the business itself, and BELAY, is that when you're really up to something, you start looking around for who you can really trust. And I imagine that's something that happened for you. You're going to jump out in this thing. You need help with the due diligence. You need help with thinking through the opportunity and the possibility. There's probably not a list of like 100 people you would really trust to do that with you. And when I think about outsourcing services for my business, I have a small business. When I think about bookkeeping, when I think about somebody working on a website that represents my business publicly, trust comes up for me. Like, how could I use a third-party service and some anonymized, other person through some intermediary? What's on the other end of it? Talk about overcoming that trust assurance, like, that concern on the prospect side. How did you guys get through that?
I mean, the truth is we trust in things that we don't fully understand all the time. Like, that's just sort of how we live our lives, right?
Your answer is don't trust anything anyway?
Or, realize that to live life, you have to trust constantly. So to do it with intention in your business just makes sense. I love getting prospects who have been burnt. Not because I'm glad they've been burnt. I hate that they've been burnt, but you have an opportunity to really prove that this can work and that not everybody is going to treat you the way that you've been treated before. And we don't rush the process. We take a lot of time and energy on the front end of our vetting and recruiting to make sure that we have the right people, because we would rather take a few weeks to get started with a client who needs help like 2 weeks ago than rush and put the wrong person in and then they get burned again. So some of it is, trusting us first as an organization that we have systems and processes in place. Like, this is actually what we do every single day, and hiring can be really hard for businesses to get right when they're, like I said earlier, wearing all the hats, trying to grow an organization. Yeah. But this is something that we have started and evaluated and reiterated and changed and added on to over the course of the last 8.5 years so that we are responsible with that currency of trust.
Trust is super important for our organization, and obviously it is for yours, but the speed at which you operate as a business is really directly related to your ability to trust others. So like an organization might go, okay, well, let's look outside of this organization. Can they really help us? If they don't find that solution, say in an organization like ours, they have to figure that on their own anyway. And guess what? They still have to trust. They have to trust somebody to execute on their behalf. So I'd rather go with the organization, and we do this now with that consulting, is who's got the track record, because if we try and repeat this internally, are we going to be the best ones at that? Yeah. So you're trusting in something all the time, whether it's in-house or something that you outsource.
Yeah, and I can see that there might be some people watching or listening to this who imagine that BELAY probably operates like some other companies I've thought of. That's kind of a glorified matchmaking service. You just got this long roster of names. Connect me to somebody. I get introduced to Kevin. Kevin's my guy, and then I either like sink or swim with him. Yeah. And it's more of like it's like a LinkedIn exchange than a more developed process. Tell me what it's really like for you guys if I'm operating under that assumption.
There's really great businesses that do that already. They are an exchange, marketplace exchange. We are not that. We are a relationship-based outsourced firm. So not only do you get, say, a virtual assistant that'll help you if you're out of breath with things like calendar management, email, project management, whatever that is, that's assigned to work with you, you also get an account management layer in our business too, our client success coordinators or consultants that basically have 50 to 80 clients just like you, so they have best practices, so they know how to say, hey, John, we see you struggling with this. We know there's a tool that you might want to leverage working with your assistant. So we're responsible for the relationship. Now you've got to make it work, and you've got to see the benefit and frankly be the one to guide this person because they're part of your team. But we're kind of a backstop for you to make sure that you're really leveraging this person the way we've taught many, many leaders how to delegate. One of the coolest compliments to date that I've ever received about our company was a guy, pretty well-known dude, but he said, hey, I've had assistants and executive assistants for over 20 years, but you're the first company that's taught me how to delegate. And that was a huge compliment. I mean, we really have learned how to help folks delegate better. And sometimes it just takes awareness on their part and realizing, oh my gosh, I got to get out of the way of myself and start doing the things that only I can do.
Yeah. All right, be honest.
Yes.
From the gut.
Yeah.
Are you surprised it got this big? Is any part of you like a little surprised it worked out like this?
100% surprised.
Yeah. Very surprised.
Yeah. I feel we owe that to the audience after we liquidated the 401k. We should admit we're a little...
I actually think if I knew we would be this size at this place, I don't know that I would have been brave enough to even start, because it seems so overwhelming now to go from 0 to 800 in 8 years. But I think as the business has grown, so have we as leaders, and so has our team. We've never wanted it to be the Bryan and Shannon show, so part of what has mitigated that, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're as big as we are, fear is we have an incredible team.
We do.
Who does an incredible job. And we've also gotten out of their way and let them lead, which I think is actually why we are as big as we are right now.
It's kind of a demonstration of the whole concept, right? I mean, it would be...
You got to eat your own dog food. You've got to be about that. And we worked really hard.
It would be ironic at best if you guys were like control freaks that couldn't...
Would it be great?
It'd be pretty bad.
Yeah. We would break that trust real fast.
I am dead serious about this, though. I think part of the reason why we've scaled so fast as an organization is our ability just to trust grown-ups and say, hey, we trust you not with just to do things, but we trust you with the results that are expected of your role. Mm-hmm. And it works. Grown-ups, once they have an opportunity to be about the result, man, they do crazy great things for you.
Well, here's what I'm hearing. Let me summarize. Quit with your spouse at the same time, liquidate your 401k, start a company with the person you're married to, and just trust everyone you meet.
That's it.
It's all going to be fine. That is the template.
You nailed the essence of this whole talk.
That's just
everybody
just
can do
that formula. Everyone's going to be great. So I'm going to get you guys out of here in a minute, but before I do, if you'll humor me, if you'll permit me, we have some listeners. There are folks here today. There's a community of entrepreneurs who are either in a partnership model with a person that they're partnered with or married to, or they're strongly considering it. And we have folks who are listening who would love to be in business with their spouse or their person. They just haven't had the courage to say it out loud yet because it's scary. If you're willing maybe just offer a little bit of advice, a teeny shred of wisdom, like what should they have in mind? What would make something like this work? Because I'm guessing it didn't just effortlessly work.
No.
Yeah.
It's definitely a process that, it is the most like vulnerable, scary, naked thing you can ever do to lead with your spouse, because they can see when you screw up, they can see when you did a great job. You can't really hide a lot when you're in a partnership together with your spouse. And so the rewards for us have far outweighed the negative impact, to us personally or as husband and wife. But my advice would be it's a constant re-up. It's never like we just made the decision and knew that this was going to work forever. I mean, we went through a season of our business where I thought, okay, this is it. The business has outgrown my ability. I might have to bow out. And it was a very dark season for us. That was tough. Yeah. Because we wanted to do it together, but I just felt like I couldn't carry it forward the way the business needed me to. And so it took a lot of soul searching, a lot of tears, a lot of fighting, a lot of breakthrough the pain to decide, no, we can still make this work. I can grow and evolve as a person. And just keeping those lines of communication open and being able to be that raw and honest and expose your greatest fears has really been a key that's helped us, and that would be the advice I would give.
Yeah.
I think for me, it would be that we are two very different people, and instead of let that be something that brings you down, leverage it. In the breakout earlier, I said this, but it's really true. I'm the rubber meets the sky, and she's the rubber meets the road. And it works. Like, we know our lanes to stay in terms of how we lead. And now more than ever, we just know how to lead folks, because when something comes through, we default to each other based on where our strengths are. And instead of that being a hang-up, which we see a lot of, couples that try and go at it in business, that try and, do the other person's job, is really define what you're best at and then trust that she's got it. Mm-hmm. And then she trusts that I have it, and it works, especially when you leverage the differences versus, get hung up by them.
Well, and I think one last thing too, like we have a vision for our family that has nothing to do with the business. Like this is a vehicle, hopefully, to accomplish our family vision, but it's beyond it. So if the business goes away for whatever reason, we're still good. Have to be good, and our vision carries us past that.
Yeah, I think anybody whose relationship is contingent on the success of their business should probably look at that relationship a little harder. Yeah, that'd be a tough way to do it.
Let's be honest. We all have jobs, and some love their jobs and some don't. But the reality is, Shannon said earlier, we won't be here forever, and that's okay. But we are going to be good stewards of this business while we have it, and we'll be very responsible about it. But what we're aiming at as a couple is entirely different than the success of the business. We're aiming at something that's generational, it's legacy-oriented for our family. It means we still love each other and happy with each other. There's so many things that are wrapped up in that vision that, frankly, our business or businesses, can't equal, because if we're aiming at that, we'll fall short of what we ultimately want.
Yeah, it's really well said. If somebody's listening and starting to feel like they might be ready to trust and get some help for their busy lives, their busy management lifestyles, where should they go? What's a URL? How should they get started?
Well, I think the first place they should go is talk to you, because you're going to have a great virtual assistant or bookkeeper. You'd be a great case study for us.
Oh, great. Right? I love it.
Yeah. That's vision right there.
But, if you can't find John, I think another great place to go would be to our website, which is belaysolutions.com. And for this event, we created a specific landing page. So it's belaysolutions.com/dig south. And they can get all sorts of great information about our organization and how we serve other people, just like John. And, we'll hopefully help those folks out too.
Fantastic. Bryan and Shannon, Miles, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us on. It was fun.